So I was kind of inspired by Carlotta Studios, a good friend of mine here on YouTube, who is probably one of the last few people who still does anything with Stormhawks. And I decided to talk about some Stormhawks headcanon that I've kind of built up, and some of my Stormhawks mythos I've kind of built around. Now, yes, I've done this before in the past, but I thought, you know what, maybe I want to do more. I want to talk about like a more of a history, like a headcanon mythos, like a headcanon in history, a whole history of headcanon, if you will, around the Raptors, which I put a lot of headcanon in the Raptor history, so much that I made like a way back to the past, what the Raptors were like in the past, to current events, to even like an extended universe, like beyond the series of Stormhawks. So, without further ado, and keep in mind, this is all just my personal headcanon. Just letting you guys know. But anyway, let's jump right into this. So, I'm going to start from the beginning with the Raptors. The Raptors, I always kind of imagined that the Raptors were, in my headcanon, they were long ago, they were like the Vikings. Bogaton was their home, but on many occasions, Raptors would go out in like droves on their ships. Like they would have these huge, these carrier warships, and would spread across any neighboring Terra and just raid them. They would raid them for gold, money, food, women, people to eat or enslave, and would take them back to Bogaton, and no one could harm them because they had that defense grid, which was, in its time, it was like its prototype. Now you're probably wondering, well, wait, didn't Repton have that built? Well, yeah, but you got to remember that Raptors, according to Repton, live long lives. So they're very, they can live for. I kind of put it as that in my headcanon, they could live for hundreds of years. Though Repton himself is very old. He's not very old. He's about late 20s, early 30s in my headcanon. So the defense grid of Bogaton was in its stage, its infancy, and Repton's great-grandfather, who was named Thrain, not Thrain, that was another character, Thane, that's it, Thane. His great-grandfather, Thane, was this great Raptor chieftain who quintessentially united the Raptor clans, because at the time, Bogaton was separated into warring clans until Thane came in and united the clans. He put them together, and he basically told them, we're fighting each other, why aren't we going out there to get our shit? Because Bogaton is a very desolate place. There's not, you can't really grow food there. The animals they were hunting were being driven to extinction, and they were more or less forced to fight among themselves. They were forced to do battle among each other. So when Thane came into power with his tribe, he more or less fought in a war, united the clans, and consistently headed out to quintessentially headed out to begin hunting down and not conquering but raiding other Terras when they finally learned how to stop fighting each other. They united their strengths and actually became even an enemy back then to the Cyclonian Empire, as well as the free Terras of Atmos. So it was they were a big threat, but they weren't really at war with anybody. They were just doing this to survive. Thane wasn't exactly interested in conquering anyone. He was more interested in the survival of his people, because he knew if they kept going the way they were, it would eventually lead to a mass extinction of the Raptors, and he knew that there were other places, places beyond Bogaton that had so much riches and food, as well as, other things they could use, that they could use, and they needed to stop fighting each other. So, yeah, that kind of led to that. So skip ahead to a few years eventually onward to Repton's era, to Repton's rule. Thane is gone, his father is gone, he's now taken the throne, and in that, Repton has decided. I put some headcanon in that the big reason why there's a united, there was a truce between Cyclonia and Bogotan, it wasn't so much, well, there was a reason of, yeah, Bogotan wasn't, it was because Bogotan wasn't destroyed. It was more because Repton wanted to evolve his people. He wanted to have them grow further. He wanted them to go further in technology, much like his grandfather, who wanted to advance them. He followed in Thane's footsteps and decided to, yeah, we're going to go further. We're going to make this Terra technologically advanced. He saw it. He saw it very much like how T'Challa saw Wakanda. He saw it as this Terra needs to keep advancing. It can't be, we can't be an isolationist Terra anymore, because that's not helping. And the reason why they went back into isolation, I should have mentioned this, is because, there was a time when, when Bogotan, in my headcanon, became an isolationist Terra. They were no more raiding. It was mostly because, let's back up here, and I really am sorry I jumped forward to that, but yeah, this follows in the isolationist era, as I call it, was that this follows his father Ragnar, Repton's father Ragnar. Ragnar was this very traditionalist Raptor. He was this staunch believer that, we have what we wanted, we can now rule as we please, and Bogotan is united. Why do we keep, I'm done following my grandfather and my father's footsteps. I'm going to rule this Terra, and we're going to go back to our roots of making this Terra a strong nation. We're going to make this a united clan that will stay here. We don't need to go out there, because he started to see that the more raiding they did and the more slaves they captured from their raids as he grew up under his father's rule, Ragnar started to see that he felt like it was poisoning their culture. He started to see their cultures intermingle with all these other Terras they were raiding and in some cases trading with. So he decided, nope, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to become we're going on lockdown, and that more or less hurt more than helped Bogotan. So eventually, when Repton got into power, when he took the throne, he decided to abolish that. But he knew at this point in time, in his time of rule, that he couldn't quintessentially go on raids anymore. He couldn't take because during the isolationist era, they basically had more or less devolved with their armor, with their fleets. They had lost battleships, and all they had was bone wings. Really, their skimmers were, they couldn't go on raids anymore. He and the army itself couldn't, sustain itself. He didn't have a big army anymore, so he was kind of forced to be like, yeah, we can't live like this anymore, and we need to, move forward. We need to evolve. So hence the unity between the two empires. So for Repton's rule, it leads all the way through. But however, I kind of changed it. Other than he survived his fall. Remember, in the last few episodes of Stormhawks, Repton survived his fall after his fight with Stork, and he returned to claim the throne, which at the time, during Repton's quote-unquote supposed death, one of his brothers, Hork, was in a civil war with a general by the name of Thrall, who was also a staunch isolationist, and the general of the armies. So there was a civil war in Bogotan to take the throne, and they both fought over it, while Lugi and Spitz, Repton's other brothers, tried to get help from the Sky Knights to help their brother and claim the throne. However, by this time, Repton crawled back out of the wastelands after falling near to his death. He survived and crawled back to Bogotan with rallied support. He actually got support from the Sky Knights, namely Starling, because in my headcanon, Starling and Repton are a ship. Yeah, I dig the Repton Starling ship. So with Starling and a few other Sky Knights under their aid, they proceeded to put down Thrall's rebellion. He took the throne from his brother, and he retook the throne, even though Hork didn't really like that idea. But Repton said, "No, you're giving me back my throne." So from there, Repton, along with Starling, took the throne. Yeah, Repton and Starling got married. They continued on ruling the Terra. So, in the extended part of it, from then on, Repton proceeded to continue with the no more isolationism. That's not even a word. No more isolating the Terra. But however, he did kind of start the raids again, even though he had aid from, he got Sky Knight support during, to get the throne back. He didn't exactly say, look, I'm not, this doesn't mean jack shit. The Cyclonian Empire's gone. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to expand our empire. Starling, at the time, who had become jaded with the Sky Knight, with the Sky Knights in general, all of Atmos, was a supporter of this, and the Repton royal family proceeded to begin the raids again. They were out raiding other Terras, and became more or less a nation. Repton was leading his people from borderline extinction back to having a Bogotan empire, the Raptor Empire, which he decided to have. Rather than just go on raids, he decided, you know what, straight up conquer Terras. And it went on to the point where he managed to conquer several neighboring Terras and put them under a empire. What stopped him, however, was eventual peace talks, because he kind of figured out this war between the Sky Knights that he was having and Bogotan wasn't going to exactly go well for him, and it was just going to be a bloody stalemate. And deep down, Repton knew that he couldn't keep this up. So Starling and Repton signed a peace treaty, but however, they kept the Terras they ruled. They allowed the citizens to leave, but they kept those Terras. They kept those to have the Raptors colonize them, and that became the Raptor Empire. The Raptor territories. A whole quadrant was under their control, and it almost it was kind of like it was almost as big as the Cyclonian Empire, but thankfully it never got that big. During that time, Repton had a few children with Starling. His twin children, Prince Romulus and Prince Remus, they were the twins who grew up as warriors. Now, in terms of culture, let's talk about culture of the Raptors. The Raptor culture, I'd always kind of based it off of Vikings and warrior and barbarian cultures, because that's how I kind of imagine them. They were these big hulking warriors who went out on raids in one time, and I always had it that in their history they never lost much like Wakanda, they never lost a war. Their Terra was never conquered. Even though they lost a few times, they never lost their home Terra to outsiders. From there, in terms of their culture, they were raiders, they were warriors, they lived to fight. They were born and raised I always kind of based it off of Viking and Spartan traditions. That's how I kind of based the Raptor culture. It's very much like you live to fight, you live to die, and dying in battlefield is a great glory. So that was always that's always how I kind of based their culture, is a very warrior-based culture. And in terms of religion, they were, they believed in many gods. They believed in, they worshipped gods of war, fertility, life, sky. They had multiple gods, but they mainly worshipped their god of war, Sovak, god of war, who they believed whenever they died, they would go to join Sovak's side in the afterlife and join his army, who would one day come down to Atmos and reclaim all of Atmos in the name of Raptors, with an army of the fallen warriors. Yeah, that's pretty much their religion, more or less. In terms of other things with this culture, is that I did a little stuff with the royal family. That being that Repton, as king, he could have many wives. He could have, a harem, basically. Very much, and that went from Thane to his grandfather, from Thane, his great-grandfather, to to Repton's grandfather, Vog, to Ragnar, his father. But Repton himself never really did the whole harem thing. He just he remained loyal to Starling alone, even though he was allowed to have multiple wives. But he never really indulged in that. He just kept with the one wife. However, since technically Spitz, Horik, and Lugi are all princes and part of the royal family, they were allowed to have many wives as they wanted. And trust me, they got them. Now, when Starling in the continuity I set up married Repton, it was unheard of. He more or less married a human. That had never been done. You could enslave a human, you could have sex with a human, but you couldn't marry them. You couldn't be in love with them because, yeah, they're an outsider. So Repton really broke some ground, and there was a big backlash from that, their queen was going to be an outsider. But Starling, as she stayed with the Terra, she stayed on Bogotan, she quickly learned their culture because she was aggressive in of herself. She was an aggressive person, she was a loner, and had a very sharp personality, so there was very much a lot of Raptor in her outside of the bedroom. Hi-yo! I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself on that one. So yeah, that was kind of the thing, is that she had to earn the respect of the people she was now ruling over. That was a big thing for her, is that she had to she had to earn that respect from her now citizens. And being a queen herself, she went from soldier to queen. So you'd have to imagine that that's a major shift change for someone. So it took a while to get used to it. But being part of a warrior culture, she got used to it pretty fucking quick. Anyway, Romulus and Remus, I didn't really do a lot. They were just children. Remus was very intelligent. He was more of the mama's boy. He was the one that who earned a lot of training from his mother, and was the apple of her eye. Romulus and Remus were not like Zuko and Azula. I should clarify that right now. They were not like Zuko and Azula. They were actually good brothers. They were both very adventurous. They were both very intelligent. Remus was more of the philosopher. He was the more I'm more of a tactician than I'm a warrior. Romulus, on the other hand, he was the soldier, and he would leave all the tactics to his leave the tactic to his brother. If I was to continue with this kind of extended universe of Stormhawks, I'd have them Romulus and Remus grow up and be great soldiers. Remus would be this Prince Remus would be this great thinker. He would be this great strategic mind, and his brother would be his twin brother Romulus would be a great general in the army, making his parents proud, of course. But yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my Stormhawks headcanon. Just I know this is kind of a long video. I'm sorry about that, but just what do you guys think of my Stormhawks headcanon? And do you guys want to see more vids like this? Anyway, once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm out.